It's Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are joined today by Denise Herz. She is a professor at Cal State Los Angeles focusing on criminal justice, which we know is in tremendous flux in the state of California with AB 109, with Prop 47. Your focus has been on probation. So I want to kind of set the parameters.
Sure.
What's probation? What's parole?
Okay, so the biggest difference between probation and parole is the intent and the type of offender that they're dealing with.
Okay.
So I'll start with parole because
Please.
that makes it a little easier. For parole, when you are a parole agent, you are receiving a caseload of offenders who are exiting from a correctional facility.
They've been in jail or prison.
They've been in jail, well, prison in this case.
Prison in this instance.
Right, and they could have been there for any number of years. And so your job is primarily to make sure that they are complying with the conditions of their parole in the community and they're not impacting public safety.
Got it.
Now, at some level, a parole agent certainly should be aware if the offender has a substance abuse problem, that they connect or try to connect the offender to substance abuse. So I do think that there is that capacity and that role, but primarily they are getting more high-risk offenders to supervise in the community to make sure that they're not impacting public safety.
Okay.
And if they do, they send them back into prison.
Probation.
Probation, on the other hand, is very specific to a disposition or a sentence that is given by the court as the outcome for a conviction. Okay, and these offenders are placed back into the community because they are deemed at a lower risk. And the mission of probation, by definition, is to supervise for the capacity of public safety, but it is also to habilitate or rehabilitate in the capacity of being a case manager, seeing what the risks and needs are of this offender, and trying to connect that offender to the types of services that they need in the community.
So there's the hammer of the law, but the heart, as I read,
Correct.
of the social worker.
That's exactly right.
Whereas with parole, you don't see as much of that.
That's
Hopefully there will be, but it's not in the mission statement.
Exactly. I think that's probably the biggest difference is the definition and the mission
Right.
of those two roles and responsibilities and where they are intersecting the criminal justice system.
With AB 109, parole and its definition gets a little hazy. We won't go there for now. Where we will go, though, is your focus, which is probation.
Sure, yes.
And there is no doubt, as a result of Prop 47, I would presume, and just general sentencing reform, there is an increased need for probation officers.
There is indeed.
And what's nice is Cal State LA has one of the strongest criminal justice programs in our region.
We certainly like to think so.
And you are a director of it, so of course it does.
Of course.
So talk to us about what Cal State LA is doing to develop the probation officers of tomorrow.
Right, thank you. So our curriculum we have been revising over the course of the past 5 to 7 years.
Right.
And we are a social science driven program.
Which means?
Which means that we look at criminal justice and criminology. Criminal justice, the study of the system, and the application of laws and what works in terms of decreasing recidivism from a system response. Criminology being why do people begin to offend.
I see.
So we look at that array of questions using social science, which is the application of research methods to collect empirical observations and make conclusions based on evidence.
I see.
Be that quantitative evidence, numbers, or qualitative evidence, which is more focus groups, observations, and we have researchers who have experience and expertise in both. And so you get a comprehensive approach.
So through that research, you have developed an innovative program.
Right, and we have focused on more focus on evidence-based programs, in what risk and need factors. These are all different buzzwords and phrases related to the modernization of criminal justice in the sense of making it more effective. So evidence-based programs are programs that have been proven empirically to work. And so what do we do? How do we, if we know a program works, then how do we begin to expand that? How do we ensure that agencies such as probation are able to access those programs and their understanding of those programs.
So what has Cal State LA done with this evidence-based research to build the probation officers of tomorrow?
Right. So we have two major elements, I think, that are really important for this conversation. One is, three. I'll do three.
I like it.
So one is we've incorporated into our curriculum all of the cutting edge research, and we make sure that students are aware of what they should be aware of when they enter these agencies. And that's important because a probation officer who's been in that job for 20, 25 years may or may not know all of the kind of cutting edge information. If they've been able to go to conferences and so forth, great. Otherwise, they won't. The second piece is we do a lot of partnering with probation to do research to help them understand who their clients are and what their characteristics are and what their needs are and what programs might be working with them. And then third is the probation service learning project.
Which is, I think, amongst the most exciting.
And I think this is the most innovative. I think many programs could say, well, we're doing that too.
Right.
But what we have had the great fortune to do because of Chief Powers and his executive team and their commitment to improving the probation workforce over time and their commitment to the department and their, I think, respect for the things that we're doing is to create a program in which it would seem on the face of it that it's an internship program, but as part of our community engagement service and public good mission, we as a university are embracing service learning much more. And what service learning is a, I think, I'm not sure that I will correctly define this, but in terms of a hardcore service learning definition, but taking an internship and making it more engaged, more in-depth, and a blending of academic knowledge and professional practice.
So what does that mean for the students?
Exactly.
Because that's what's got to be the most exciting for them, the most invigorating.
It absolutely is. I think that to showcase some of the experiences that they've had really makes that point.
And makes it marketable.
It makes them
Once
marketable, right? Everyone wins. This is a mutually beneficial approach because probation is able to expose students who believe that they're interested in probation to a real in-depth experience, and so that students can really see what probation is about.
So what do they do?
What we do is it is a competitive process, and so students have to apply, and then probation does require them to take the exam, the civil service exam that applicants do. They have to pass the exam. They also have to pass the background check. If they pass all of that, and we have more students than we have slots for, we select, and we then pair them with a probation director, which is a fairly high-level position in the administration of probation.
It's phenomenal.
And so they then work weekly to meet, and the directors and the students come up with a project for the quarter, and they work together through assignments and through weekly meetings to achieve that project.
Do they work with probationers?
They do, and in many cases, we are now on our second cohort.
Right.
We'll be launching our second cohort next week.
Sure, perfect.
The spring quarter. But for fall quarter, there were many probation projects that involved speaking with clients, probation clients, doing interviews with probation clients, and really thinking about what were the needs and the risks that this young person, juveniles as well as adults, had.
You do both juveniles and adults.
That's right. The assignments cover both juvenile and adult.
And I would think if they're covering juveniles, there's a nice connection between that 20-year-old, let's say, and the juvenile who could be 15.
That's right.
And so
That's
a nice connection there.
And when we talked to students at the end, we did get some feedback. And what was most impressive to me was that students often had one perception of probation when they went in, and they tended to see it on the more correction side, which it really relates to the beginning question for you.
And you'll come back and talk more about it as the program goes forward.
Sure.
She's Denise Herz, I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.